Hi guys, I'm Refashioned Hippie. A few weeks ago, I asked any taxidermists who followed me if they would be willing to be interviewed. And Katy, who is an incredibly kind and sweet and genuinely beautiful human being, answered me. These are some examples from her work. What she does is stunning. I want all of it unequivocally. So she actually sat down for an interview with me, and she was so kind because it's like 1 a.m. her time. I didn't realize she was in the UK until she explained to me that I was keeping her up. So please watch this interview, learn a little bit about taxidermy with me, and please follow her on Instagram. She is amazing.
So, hello everyone. I am Refashioned Hippie. Some of you might have seen the taxidermy videos that I have been posting, and I realized that I know absolutely nothing about the subject other than what Facebook ads are bringing into my life. And now the algorithm is super weird, so I'm seeing weird stuff. But I wanted to get to speak to an actual taxidermy artist. Enter Katy. So she has very kindly agreed to speak with us. I'm fuzzy. So Katy. So
PoKatyArtwork.
Katy runs PoKatyArtwork. Please follow her here. I'm going to post stuff because I know how to do it in post production. And it will also be tagged down below if you want to see anything that she has to offer. But can you just introduce yourself and your business a little bit? And then we're going to get into some questions that people had from the internet.
Hi, so I'm Kate. I am the owner, creator, artist, social media, all that kind of stuff of PoKatyArtwork, which is all handmade right here in West Yorkshire in England. Currently rainy England, which loving. We don't do heat. Don't like it. I'm not born for heat. So yeah, basically my whole thing is ethically sourcing all my specimens, my bones, my butterflies, everything, because my whole ethos is honouring the lives and the deaths of my specimens.
So there are two questions that I have gotten just over and over and over, and I'm going to let you answer them in whatever order you think makes the most sense. One, I think the most obvious, how did you get involved in this? How did this happen? And two, I want to ask you about ethically sourcing, because a lot of people have asked, are these animals ethically sourced? But a lot of people also have questions about what exactly that means. Because is it ethical to say pick up frozen feeder mice from a pet store? Or is it only ethical if the animal lived a healthy life, died of natural causes? So I want to talk about what those shades of gray mean to you. So those are the two main questions I got. Please give me your insight on that.
Yeah. So how I got started, the quickest answer is all my granddad's fault. He was him and my grandma, even though they lived on a little council estate, they were very much, they like to hunt for their own stuff, very sustainable. They were green before it was trendy. Like, you used to walk into a kitchen and there were jars everywhere. And he taught me how to hunt and forage from 4, 5, 6 years old, like as a little kid. And he used to get employed or hired by the local farmers to do rabbiting on their fields, because otherwise the rabbits would, breed too much and ruin all the crops. So he'd basically get paid to, take a load of the rabbits and get them out of the field, kind of thing. And we'd come home, he'd teach me how to skin them properly. Then me Nana would go into the kitchen, get all the meat off them. The pelts used to go to a lady up the road who used to make hats and gloves out of them as like winter stuff. So yeah, they used to do this all the time with like deer and all like pheasants and ducks, and they were very much, even though they do like a shop at the local supermarket, they wanted all their meat where they knew it came from.
Yeah.
They knew the whole thing of it.
That's
So
amazing
that
to
was
me because it sounds like you're describing like the 1880s. That is amazing to me.
it's literally, yeah, it's it's the early 90s, but yeah, it's very much because with my grandparents, they were born between World War I and World War II, so there was still rationing, there was still
Yeah.
all that kind of, everything was sparse. So it's just how they were raised and just continued it. And yeah, I was the only one really of the family that enjoyed it, like that lifestyle, and I still do. Um, but yeah, so yeah, it's all my grandparents' fault.
No,
Although technically it's their grandparents' fault.
that's wonderful because like I always think I want to pack up and just move to the woods.
Yeah,
And then to go to the grocery store, I need like 18 things in my bag. But it's like, no,
yeah,
I was
it's yeah,
born exactly where I meant to be.
yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about ethical sourcing? Basically,
Yeah.
what exactly does that mean? Because there
So
definitely seems to be a spectrum of that
it
definition.
is. I mean, I think ethical sourcing is subjective to everyone. They've all got their own version of it. Every taxidermist has got their own kind of version of it. My like version and ethos is naturally found dead. So I
Okay.
use a lot of stuff I find in the woods, roadkill, bits my customers send to me when they've been walking the dog and they come across, a bone or something, they'll pop it in the post for me.
Oh,
It's
wow.
yeah, um, which is really great. I've got a couple that send me butterflies that they find in the greenhouses. Um, I've got beekeeper friends. It's really opened up a lot of like friendship paths for my suppliers. But yeah, it's all. I think with me, as long as I know and I can confirm the fact that nothing died expressly for my work, I'm happy.
Mhm.
Um, some will say like as long as it died humanely, it's fine. But yeah, mine's I definitely might I've, I've always loved collecting taxidermy and everything
Mhm.
myself, and there has always been a lack of truly ethical, taxidermy and entomology and stuff. Um, because unfortunately, throughout the years, through history, the only way to document a lot of species and specimens is to take them and, take them out of their environment when they're alive, kill them, and then, document them. So, which scientifically obviously needs to be done, although they do seem to be changing standards the last like 50 years or so, which is good. Um, so yeah, all mine, I know where all my butterflies come from, where all my moths comes from. Um, when I find like specimens like bees and stuff on the road, I'll mark down in my phone where I found it, the date and stuff.
Oh,
No
wow.
one ever has to see that, but it's just for me, like I know where that big bumble bee came
Yeah.
from. Yeah, I do find it very subjective. Like there's a few specimens that no matter how hard you try, it is near on impossible to get ethically sourced. The main one being bats of any kind, especially in the US, the UK, they're all protected species. So there is the last 10, 20 years or so, a big influx of specimens that have come from Indonesia mainly, of bats that are legal to have over here, and unfortunately they are mass killed. And there's is, I think, in the, you know, even the 5 years I've been on Etsy, I think I've seen maybe 3, 4 actually ethically sourced bats.
Let me ask you something about that actually. So you mentioned before that you have customers who send you pieces.
Yeah.
I also want to know what kind of person buys taxidermy, because on my channel, I've shown just like the weirdest stuff I could possibly find. I did not know that burlesque mice were so big. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm learning. So that is a question I have, is what kind of person is buying taxidermy? Because I truly did not realize it was such a large industry.
It really is. It's it's one of them. It's always been, because it's animals and it's using animal parts that aren't for food. It's always been like a bit frowned upon, I guess. It's definitely always been an old man's club, and if you look through who I follow on Instagram, I think 99% of them are female taxidermists, because there's just as many of us as there is of them, and they're dying off a lot quicker than we are.
Well, you know what? Honestly, I like I said, I'm so new at this. I never thought at all about the fact that you really are taking a snapshot of something. Because for me, it's a dead
Yeah.
animal. But you're so right that
Yeah.
it's like you know exactly where it came from.
Yeah. I mean, majority of my customers are, gothy, alternative, punk people, but I have so many, straight-laced people, customers. I've got vegans as customers. I've got vegetarians as customers.
That surprises me.
Which,
I won't lie.
yeah, which honestly surprises me, but it makes me know, it lets me know I'm doing a good job,
Yeah.
and they trust where I'm sourcing stuff from, and they know I can prove it. Which, yeah, like, love that. Um, but yeah, I get a lot of people who have moth phobias and butterfly phobias and spider phobias, who will, you can see the fascination in their eyes, along with, oh my God, that's a giant spider or a tarantula or a big morpho.
Yeah.
And they're like, I like them like this because they're not flapping around in my face. I know where they are. And I've actually had a couple tell me, like, framed butterflies and stuff, not even just mine, just in general, have helped them get over their phobias.
Oh,
Not
wow.
not like completely,
Yeah.
because obviously, there's always summertime, there's always butterflies around that can take you by surprise.
Oh, you don't need
Um,
to talk to me about anxiety disorders. I got you, babe.
yeah. Well, mine's always been arachnophobic. And that's my dad's fault. As a kid, absolutely loved them. I was that little weird kid, the little artsy loner who had a bag in her a carrier bag in her bag that would be full of random rocks and the odd bone that she'd found and a dead beetle, and I would always, I had the obsession whenever I found a really pretty, like, garden spider, like a field spider, an orb weaver or something, I'd keep it in like a jar at home, and it'd be my pet for a while, and then I'd release it. And so, like, temporary pets. And then one day I knocked over a jar with a gorgeous like golden orb weaver that I'd found in the field, and it died, and I was heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
I was, and my dad evilly said, "Well, now you've killed it all. Its family are gonna getting come gonna get you looking for revenge." Instant phobia. Everything went out. I was like, nope. It scared me to death, and I'm like looking back now, I'm like, Dad, you are so evil. Like, why would you say that?
No, you know
And
what?
my
I have a
mum,
4-year-old daughter, and every day I'm like, what's the thing I'm gonna do that's gonna completely traumatize her? Like, what's the one offhand comment I'm gonna
that was
make
yeah,
that her life becomes
yeah.
about? Actually, I do want to ask you, because you sort of mentioned like little mini pets. What is your opinion on people taxidermying their pets? Because I've started to see that come up, and I think even though this is completely, my personal thing, even if it's
Yeah,
beautifully done, I can't.
yeah.
I can't get my head around it.
Honestly, yes. I sway back and forth between it. Like it, I have seen some people do it where it is so lifelike and so realistic, and you're like, you double take because you're like, is it alive? Is it dead? Um, for me, I probably wouldn't. I'd rather have not like a full taxidermy. I'd rather have like their ashes or like bones or something of them. Like I have a lot of my past pet rats. I have their skulls. Um and I've done pet memorials for customers. Um my favourite one being a friend of mine, Rachel. She lost her Herman's tortoise a couple of years ago. I basically cleaned him up, sorted him out, um, got the shell all clean and meat free, and then yeah, he's now displayed at hers. I have his bones and his skeleton in my own personal collection. He's not going anywhere. He's not getting
Is
used.
is there any animal you will not touch, and anything you just I won't do it for whatever reason?
Yeah. Definitely bats. The more I learn about them and the methods that they've been used to, uh, you know, be transported over to here to be sold. I did when I first started selling, what, like 10ish years ago. I did have bat skulls and bat skeletons that sold, and it wasn't until like I'd got I'd when I'd purchased them, the seller had said like they're pest controlled, like that, it's byproduct kind of thing. So I was like, okay, I got them. And then I think, yeah, maybe 5, 6 years ago, it kind of, people were like, these bats are not like in general, if you buy from Indonesia, they're not ethically sourced. So I was like, right, no more bats. That's it. Um, and yeah, and whenever people go, oh, do you ever get any more bat skulls in? It's like, no. And I will go on a rant of why I will not get them back in. So I will use
Yeah.
this as a teaching moment for you. Like, if you choose to go buy them, I'm not going to say anything. I'll be like, I can show you many sellers who do them. Go buy them. But for my own kind of moral compass, won't have them in the store. I do have in my own collection. I have two antique specimens, But again, people were like, you don't have to wear ethical source. It's like, well, they're 80 years old. No one does.
Yeah.
You know, which also is, you know, I do buy a lot of vintage stuff. Majority of my bird taxidermy for my own collection is vintage or antique.
Can I ask you actually, as we're headed that way, is there anything you would like to just sort of feature or talk about that you have created?
My own creations. Yes, I do have some in front of me.
Okay.
You know,
I'm very interested.
yes. So I think one of my favorite big domes at the moment is my gorgeous kitty cat.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a forest fine cat skull, obviously. Um, and a big blue Ulysses, which hashtag no filter, like that blue is
Yeah,
like
that is like,
unreal.
stop it. This is the
It's
kind of stuff that like I
blue.
didn't know
Yeah,
that I needed it. Now that I've seen it, it's I can't live without it.
yeah. So I think definitely this is one of my favorite big
Yeah.
domes. So yes, the cat skull. I did try to look for the rest of the skeleton, but I only found that because usually if I find anything like a cat, I will bag it up, take it to the local vets, get it scanned, make sure that, you know, it's not someone's pet, because God forbid, hi kitty cat.
That's very nice
um,
of you. Again, that's something I never
yeah,
would have even considered.
yeah. So it's, although especially around our area, there's so many strays and ferals, cat butt. Um, so yeah, it's, you know, they're just part of the scenery, I guess, sometimes. One of my other favorite smaller dome I've done lately would be my gorgeous Luna moth. It's so
Wow.
pretty.
I love the mushrooms in that too.
Yeah, all the mushrooms, all the ivy. I forage myself. I dry myself. So
Wow.
yeah, I always seem to just pick toxic mushrooms. So yeah, don't eat anything that's in any of these. Um, you may die. Yeah,
I hope
I
you
always
know
think,
I'm picturing that you live like a forest witch. Like that's what I'm picturing, and I hope that that
yeah,
is accurate. That makes me
that is like 100% like living my best witchy goblin life. And yeah, um, one that's always popular at my events and my Etsy would be my mini domes. They're so dinky.
wow.
So I don't know if this one's going to focus. It's basically a a wasp hive,
Yeah.
and it's got some like fluffy bees. On. It's not going to focus at all. There we go. I think that's going to be as good as we're going to get it. My mini domes always have been my best seller for the last 5, 6 years. They, especially at my goth shows I do in Leeds, they're always like my sellout products, which is amazing. People go mental for them because they're cheap, they're cheerful, they're dinky, they just fit on a space somewhere. Um, so yeah, which yeah, luckily I bulk buy the containers for them because yeah, I can, you know, the and making them the one of the ones I get like a little production line going on my sofa. So I'll get all the bases, I'll glue all the moss, then I'll decide what foliage to put in, then all the little beetles and specimens, and then so yeah, I get like a little, so I can easily knock out like 20 or 30 in like a few hours.
Oh wow.
So yeah,
So
but yeah, it's
what
just
you've shown us so far, I think is, although beautiful, relatively tame. One question I absolutely have to ask you before my timer runs out because I'm cheap and I didn't buy Zoom. Um, what is your opinion? Because again, I'm like burlesque mice is
Yeah.
something I didn't know existed, and it did. What is your opinion on whether or not a form of taxidermy honors an animal or is disrespectful to an animal? Like, where do you draw that line? And what would you say to the people who say, sexualizing a dead animal way over the line?
Yeah. I mean, you do see a lot of like, yeah, like the stripper mice and, ballerina mice and all like the, dressed up ones or the BDSM mice and stuff.
Did not know
And
that existed. That is a dreaded Google
yeah,
search in my future.
yeah, BDSM, like rats and mice, it's eye opening. I mean, again, it's subjective. I I really don't have a problem with, you know, how they're sourced. A lot of people will use um mice and rats that are frozen food for reptiles and snakes. Um, so, they've already you died for one purpose, you're just using them for something else. Um, I do think sometimes it can go a little bit far in the like sexualizing or humiliation of them. Um, I think sometimes it's easy to cross that line between just being like a bit, cheeky with,
Mhm.
the humanizing of them to it getting a bit weird.
I am discovering that. I
Yeah,
am discovering that. I
yeah,
have to say, like, no, I don't at all mean to insult you or your work.
yeah,
It's not my thing. I it I
yeah,
truly just see a dead animal when I look at it. I
yeah,
understand, like, from the scientific point of view, but you're right. Like Roosevelt, he ended up with something like 11,000 dead animals that he brought back. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it can be really crazy, but I am coming to appreciate the true artwork that is
yeah,
involved with it. Because when I think about a taxidermist working, I just think about like an autopsy, and that's where my brain
yeah,
stops. But now that I'm actually
yeah.
looking at the work, it really is incredibly skilled.
Mm.
And I also wonder, just how are you learning that? And are you teaching anyone else?
So a lot of it is um majority of my skills are self-taught or remembering like what my granddad taught me. Um, it was watching YouTube videos and other taxidermists do their thing, and yeah, just kind of adopting my own styles and how I do things. I am thinking of running butterfly pinning classes, either later in the year or next year, um, just to kind of share my skills. I am an open book with how I do things, my skill sets, my my processes. I get, several messages a week asking like, how do I do this? How do I do this? And I'm like, here's the whole thing for you. Like, here's a whole spreadsheet of how to do it. There is a lot of gatekeeping
Yeah.
in the community. Um, but the majority of us are very much share and share alike. Um, so yeah, especially these days, there's no new techniques. Everything's been done before since, Edwardian, Victorian times. There's no, like with anything, nothing's new anymore. We just do it how we do it, put our own flair and style on it.
The last thing I want to ask you, is just sort of open-ended, but for my tens and tens of loyal followers, what would you like people to know about taxidermy? Just what do you think? What do you want to say?
The main thing is we didn't kill it. We didn't, we don't go around shooting cats or, grabbing, butterflies, chasing after butterflies in the field or something. It's, majority of us do source as ethically and sustainably as possible. It's okay if you don't like it. Honestly, it's, you cannot like the subject but still appreciate the talent and the time and the effort that goes into it. Some of my domes, some of my creations can take weeks to create. Or a solid 5-6 hours of putting it all together. So it's art subjective. I will always say this is an art form. It's a passion, and it's completely fine if you don't like it. There's stuff I don't like in the art world or in general, and that's okay. But just don't voice your opinions too loud.
Okay, well, honestly, I think that's very well said. Thank you. I'm still absolutely learning about this subject. I had no idea. I never thought I would be fighting with strangers on the internet about taxidermy. It is fascinating. And I thank you for giving me just like a glimpse on like the inside of taxidermy. So thank you for speaking with me today. I really enjoyed this. I will probably continue to email you with thousands and thousands of questions.
That's okay.